I took a job as a park ranger because I thought the silence of the forest would save me. The city had been grinding me down for years, and the idea of tall pines and quiet nights sounded like medicine. The park was remote, hidden behind twisting dirt roads and mountains that swallowed phone signals. The first thing they handed me was a rule book, old and yellowed, with a rubber band around it. Ranger Dalton, the man who trained me, said only one thing before walking away. Follow the rules, exactly as written. I laughed when I read them that night in my cabin. Rule 1 said never answer the radio after 2:30 a.m., even if another ranger calls. Rule 2 said if a deer stands perfectly still for more than 10 minutes, report it immediately. Rule 3 said never look at your reflection in the lake after sunset. I thought it was hazing. The forest was quiet. My flashlight beamed soft against the trees, and for a few days nothing happened. Then the quiet became too deep. The crickets stopped singing. The wind froze, and I realized that real silence in a forest means something else is listening. The first time it called me, I was half asleep. The radio crackled, and a woman's voice whispered my name, gentle like someone who had known me for years. She told me to come to the lake. The clock on the wall read 2:16. I didn't answer, but the whisper didn't stop. It slid out of the speakers even after I unplugged the radio, and then I heard it outside the cabin door. When I looked through the blinds, a figure stood at the tree line, hair black, face white, motionless. I blinked and she was gone. The next morning, Dalton smirked when I told him. He said the lake liked to test new rangers. He sighs, didn't he blink right when he said it? And for the first time I noticed the sunlight pass through him in a strange way. That evening the fog moved differently. It clung to my boots and followed me as I walked the trail. At the edge of the lake I saw my reflection twist before I did, smiling when I wasn't. When I stepped back, ripples spread outward even though I hadn't touched the water. I told myself I was tired. I told myself it was a trick of the light. But when I closed my eyes that night, I dreamed of that same woman standing over me, dripping water onto my face, whispering my name again and again until I woke up choking on the smell of lake mud. The next week a camper went missing. His tent was found torn open and soaked. A note lay in the mud that said the lake remembers. Dalton told me not to worry, that search teams would handle it, but no one ever came. That night I opened my rule book again and saw new words written at the bottom in fresh ink. Rule 23. If someone disappears, don't look for them after dawn. I hadn't written it. I ran my fingers over the page, and the ink was still wet. I went outside to confront Dalton, but his cabin was dark. When I turned back toward the lake, I saw him standing there knee-deep in the water. His reflection moved before he did, just like mine had. The next morning, I checked behind him as we walked. He cast no shadow. The pages of the rule book rustled even though the air was still. Every word inside it felt alive, like the park itself was writing. That night the forest came alive with whispers. They slid through the trees like wind, but formed words I could understand. They said my name. They said I was next. I tried to drive away, but every road looped back to the same ranger station. The map on the dashboard kept redrawing itself, the ink crawling across the paper. I was trapped inside a living thing wearing the skin of a park. The night everything broke began with rain that never touched the ground. The drops hung in the air like glass beads, then drifted upward. The radio turned on by itself, whispering my voice back to me, repeating the same sentence over and over. Come to the lake. Come to the lake. I grabbed my flashlight and went. Not because I wanted to, but because something in my chest pulled me. The forest was watching. Every tree leaned toward me. I reached the shore and saw footprints leading into the water. They were mine, but I hadn't walked there yet. My reflection waited in the middle of the lake, standing on the surface, smiling. When I raised my hand, it pointed behind me. Dalton stood there, soaked, his eyes gone, water streaming from the holes. He said I had broken too many rules, and the park keeps what it claims. Behind him, dozens of faces rose from the lake. Campers, rangers, strangers. Their mouths opened in silent screams, and the air smelled like wet earth and rot. I ran, but the trees closed around me. Every path bent back to the water. The reflection followed me even when I shut my eyes. I heard my own voice whispering from inside my skull. The lake remembers. When I reached the cabin, the lights flickered. The rule book lay open on the table. A new line carved into the paper with something sharp. Rule 24. If you have read this far, it's already too late. Now I stay inside the cabin and keep the curtains drawn. The radio whispers every night, and sometimes I hear footsteps outside, but I don't look anymore. The rule book is still changing. New rules appear each morning, written in my handwriting, though I swear I'm not the one writing them. One says the new ranger arrives tomorrow. One says the forest doesn't like to be forgotten. I think about the missing people, about the way Dalton's smile looked when he disappeared back into the lake. I think about how sometimes, when the fog presses against the window, I can see faces forming in it. They mouth the same words over and over, as if rehearsing them for whoever replaces me. The park takes care of its own. I used to think that meant safety. Now I know it means ownership. If you ever find yourself walking near a lake that has no name on a map, don't stop. If you hear someone whisper your name from the water, don't answer. I took a job as a park ranger. The list of rules gets darker every day. And if you can still hear my voice, remember this last warning. The forest is always hungry for a new story. If you want to know what happens to those who ignore warnings, follow me into the next tale. But only if you're not afraid of what waits beyond the trees. The next story begins where this one ends, and once you hear it, you won't sleep again.